You've been told olive oil is heart healthy, but here's the ugly truth. It oxidizes, damages your mitochondria, and replaces the very fats your body evolved to thrive on. Want real energy? You'll need to rethink that bottle in your pantry. Hi everyone, I'm Marc Bates. I'm a metabolic health coach, and this is part of my highlights series. The olive oil lie, why it's failing your mitochondria, and what to use instead. Okay, here we go. Why olive oil fails your mitochondria. Did you know that the oil industry built its reputation on a historical lie? While marketed as an ancient foundational human food, olive oil's culinary use spans roughly 200 years. For most of human history, cosmetic use dominated olive oil applications. Ancient Greeks used it for athletic training and religious rituals. The Romans burned it in lamps. The biblical peoples, they used it for olive oil and for anointing oil. They used it as oil in their lamps and as anointing oil. In the Bible, it's never once mentioned as a food source. Okay? So, gotta be careful with that. Even in medieval times, populations consumed a minimal amount, relying instead on animal fats like lard and tallow. All right? So there's an evolutionary mismatch going on here. Human metabolism evolved over millions of years, processing saturated animal fats, omega 3s from wild seafood, and cholesterol rich organ meats, primarily from ruminant animals cattle, bison, lamb, right? These ancestral fats provided complete nutritional packages. Fat came bundled with protein, minerals, fat soluble vitamins, and metabolic cofactors. Olive oil strips away this nutritional synergy. It delivers isolated monounsaturated fats without the supporting cast of nutrients that help cells metabolize fat properly. The displacement effect matters more than the oil itself. When olive oil replaces butter, tallow, or marrow, cells lose access to vitamin K2, cholesterol, and stable saturated fats that support mitochondrial function. The oxidative damage problem. When extra virgin olive oil oxidizes under stress, that's heat, light, and if you're not in one of those really light proof bottles, it's affected by light, and oxygen trigger lipid peroxidation, creating toxic aldehydes like 4-hydronucleonyl and malonodialdehyde. Some of those scientific terms just get to me. I'm sorry, they twist your tongue. These toxic aldehydes integrate into mitochondrial membranes, disrupting energy production and damaging cellular DNA. Here's the real problem, right? These things get right into the membranes of the mitochondria, and it damages them. And the last thing you want is anything that damages your mitochondria, right? We're talking about signaling and energy production. The antioxidants in fresh olive oil provide some protection, right? But let's talk about antioxidants here. How do they know that they're antioxidants? Because they elicit a glutathione response. Glutathione is your body's natural antioxidant, and so when you eat something from a plant-based source and it produces a glutathione response, everyone calls it an antioxidant in what you just ate because you're increasing all this glutathione. No, the glutathione is responding to the plant food things in it that it doesn't like. It's not an antioxidant, okay? But we'll keep with what the scientists say, that it's an antioxidant. Okay, the antioxidants in fresh olive oil provide some protection, but they deplete rapidly during cooking or storage. Yeah, that's the problem. You store it. How old is that bottle, really, that you're buying? Most store-bought bottles contain degraded oil with compromised protective compounds. And by the way, okay, we'll talk about quality later. Research shows heated olive oil increases oxidative markers in blood compared to unheated versions. The heart-healthy oil becomes a vector for the very inflammation it claims to prevent. There's a pretty famous in the U.S. burger chain, and I like them for quite a bit. It's called Elevation Burger because they serve grass-fed beef, right? Which is great. But they had this really funny thing because the guys in there didn't know anything about nutrition. They make French fries and they cook it in olive oil. To get olive oil hot enough to turn potatoes into French fries, you have to overheat it to the point that you're turning the olive oil into something toxic. They didn't know that, but I haven't been to for a couple of years now to an Elevation Burger since I moved, and there isn't one close to me here. But it's like that is just something you got to watch that. People say I've cooked it in olive oil; it's healthy. No, you cooked it in olive oil. Heating the olive oil is bad. Okay, plain and simple. All right, the quality crisis, and this is one of the things that I really stress on with olive oil. The olive oil market suffers from widespread fraud and adulteration. Oh, God, yes. Did you know that laboratory testing reveals only 40% of olives labeled extra virgin actually meet the specification? So not only are you paying for something called extra virgin, but it's not extra. It's not extra virgin. This, and then if it's not fresh, it's definitely not that, right? The other problem is that there's no one really tracking this stuff. Do you know how much of that Italian olive oil you're buying actually came from Tunisia under very low controls? It could be the worst olive oil you've ever seen. Gets mixed into that pristine Greek or Italian olive oil, and it goes all the heck. All right. The other thing is they have done laboratory tests, and they found that especially the cheaper olive oils in the grocery store, there's a large percentage of canola oil. One of the cheapest seed oils you can buy to make more money, right? And they're not telling you there's seed oil in there; they're lying to you. You gotta be worried about the quality of the oil you're buying. So if you're going to buy olive oil, go to a specialized vendor that only deals with olive oil, that presses their own. So typically what you want to do is go to a vineyard that makes wine, that also grows olives, and they press their own olives. They control the whole process, and they can tell you when the bottle was pressed. And of course, that's just god awful expensive. But if you're going to eat olive oil, you got to make sure it's real good olive oil, and that's the only way to do it, in my opinion. Okay, the Mediterranean diet. Oh, I love people who tell me how great the Mediterranean diet is, and they have no idea what they're talking about. So, the Mediterranean diet says that, olive oil is just wonderful. Spread it over your veggies, spread it over your salads. It's heart healthy, and baloney. Do you ever really go to a Mediterranean country? They don't eat, at least especially traditional if you're away from the where the tourist traps are. They don't eat this stuff like we're told that they eat it. No, they eat regular stuff. They eat unheated olive oil in small quantities, use it as a condiment, right? Most common way in Italy I saw that olive oil was used as a condiment, maybe on a little bit of the crostini or something for taste, but they didn't drizzle it over everything. No, okay. And they're eating a lot of minimally processed foods, which is good, and they have active lifestyles, which is good, but it's not because of the olive oil. It's because of everything else, right? And then, modern, especially American consumers, they heat their olive oil at high temperatures. They store it for months, and they use it to displace animal fats, thinking animal fats are bad when animal fats are good for you. And they maintain a sedentary, high-stress lifestyle. This stuff just goes right after your heart and your liver, okay? The studies show olive oil perform better than industrial seed oils, but not by much in real terms, okay? You really need to get your fat from as part of tallow, which is included in your beef, right? And animal fats. I mean, that's where you want your fat. You want butter, ghee, and tallow. Okay, specialized diet contradictions. In ketogenic carnivore diets, right? The practitioners often include olive oil, despite these approaches emphasizing animal-based nutrition. That's because these people don't know what they're talking about for the most part. Because someone who says, I'm a keto coach or I'm a carnivore coach is not a metabolic coach. They have not trained in metabolic uh, mechanisms. They don't know cell biology. They don't know physiology very well. They just know this diet fad and it's good for you and it helped them lose some weight and they're going to coach it. Well, guess what? The reason this stuff works is because it's a metabolic process and it's part of the physiology. And you got to know that stuff. So if you don't know that stuff, don't tell people that you're a carnivore coach. Okay? I'm sorry. I have this real problem with carnivore coaches all over the place and keto coaches who say, "Oh yeah, here's keto and eat fat." I said, "What do you think about olive oil?" "Oh, it's great. It's monounsaturated." They don't know what they're talking about. Okay? Bingo. The logic relies on macronutrient compatibility rather than evolutionary alignment. They don't understand what they're talking about as to why you have to eat certain things. They don't know about the signaling processes. They don't know how the mitochondria work. They don't know about ATP production. Ask anybody who tells you that they're a keto coach and say, okay, what's the ATP cycle? What's the citric acid cycle, also known, or the Krebs cycle, which are in the mitochondria? What's the Randall cycle? Well, how do these things affect your cellular signaling? How do they affect what you get? They don't know. Don't. Listen to people who don't know what they're talking about. Carnivore diets prioritizing macros over optimization. They don't know what they're talking about, so they say, but they know their macros. Okay, they displace nutrient-dense fats with olive oil, which is bad for you, but they think olive oil is good for you because they don't know better, and they create a plant-based keto. God, the most contradictory thing I've ever seen. I've had people tell me about plant-based keto. Oh yeah, I just use a lot of olive oil. I get my fats in there, and I can be ketogenic. Oh, baloney. You don't know anything about how your body actually works. And that's the most important thing here. Okay, there is a transition. For those who are ready to move beyond olive oil dependency, this takes time because you have to reframe how you're thinking about it and using olive oil in restriction, very much like you would consider carbs. Restrict your carbs. Okay, reserve high quality olive oil for cold applications only, and use it, like I said, as it's used in many Mediterranean countries as a condiment, as something that enhances the flavor of something else. Okay, so it's not a cooking medium; it's a finishing condiment. Focus on single oil, recently harvested oils, and you got to know that it's that way because you can't trust what's in the grocery stores. Grocery stores are not trying to lie to you. It's just the suppliers are lying to you. Okay, and so if you're going to get single sourced, where you really know when it was processed, you're going to pay a lot more for that. So the olive oil is not going to be cheap. It's going to be very expensive. The goal isn't a perfect alignment. If you like the taste of olive oil, especially in certain circumstances and certain types of foods you're eating, great. Make sure it's high quality. Pay for that high quality and enjoy it. Okay. Your cellular energy systems evolved to thrive on stable, nutrient-dense animal fats, not olive oils, as a condiment, as a taste enhancer. Wonderful, but don't rely on it as your source of fats. Monounsaturated fats are not where you're supposed to be. You get plenty of monounsaturated fats in beef. Beef tallow is 40% monounsaturated fat, if not maybe a little bit more. So that's what you want. All right. Thanks for watching. You have questions, comments. If you think I'm a loon, go ahead. Put it in the comments. Let me know. Give me some reasons why. And let's talk about it. Okay? If you have anything you want to know about, give me a comment. This video came from a comment from one of our viewers who was using olive oil and said, what do you think about olive oil? Well, here's what I think about olive oil. Okay? I get my best ideas on what you guys want to know from you. So ask me, okay? This is a community. I'm here to respond to your needs. Also, if you haven't done so, please like, subscribe, share this with somebody who needs it. It does help the channel a great deal, and let's help others. Thank you so much.